Have you been keeping up with the case of Devin Perkins? Devin was the boyfriend of TikTok star Ali Spice, who, along with two others, died in a car accident in 2022. To nearly everyone's surprise, Devin was just convicted of charges that will land him in prison for 30 years. If you aren't aware of what happened, a little after 2 a.m. on December 11th, 2022, four people, all in their early 20s, were making their way home after hanging out in Orlando, Florida for the night. Then 22-year-old Devin Perkins was driving his four-door black 2014 Infiniti Q50, and with him was his girlfriend, 21-year-old Alexandra Dulin, also known as Ali Spice on TikTok, Devin's best friend, 25-year-old Kyle Moser, and 20-year-old Ava Fellerman. At the exact same time, just down the road, a 53-year-old man named Thomas Petry climbed into the driver's seat of his friend's 2020 gray Toyota Tacoma. His friend and the owner of the car, Joanna Dillon, gets into the passenger seat, and the pair leave a bar they had spent the last 6 hours drinking at. At 2:03, the first 911 call comes in stating that a Toyota Tacoma is driving westbound in the eastbound lane on State Route 44 in Volusia County, Florida. The caller is panicked because she says the Tacoma did not have their headlights on, and if it weren't for this one well-lit stretch of highway that she happened to be on, she never would have seen him and certainly would have hit him. A few minutes later, another 911 call comes in and says the exact same thing. There's a driver in a Toyota Tacoma heading westbound in the eastbound lane on State Route 44. She also adds the same thing. Driver had their headlights off, so she flashed her lights and honked the horn, trying to get the driver's attention. Then at 2:14 a.m., a third call comes into 911 reporting a head-on collision between a Toyota Tacoma and an Infiniti Q50. A minute later, a Toyota Prius slams into the pileup. Hopefully this helps explains things a little better. Thomas Petry, the man who's driving the wrong way down the highway, is in red. Devin Perkins' car is in green, and the third car, the Toyota Prius, is in yellow. EMS arrived just 3 minutes later to find 3 of the passengers in the Infiniti deceased and the driver, Devin Perkins, dying. Devin was rushed to the hospital where he was suffering from a collapsed lung, broken ribs, broken pelvis, embedded glass from the windshield, and multiple other injuries. He was non-responsive and not breathing when he arrived at the hospital. The driver of the Tacoma, Thomas Petry, who caused this entire mess to begin with, crawls out the driver's side window and, despite people laying dead on the highway, takes off running into the woods, leaving his passenger, Joanna Dillon, injured in the truck. Thankfully, the driver of the third car, the Toyota Prius, is uninjured. So police asked Joanna Dillon for the name of who was driving her vehicle, and there's a discrepancy here because police claim she refused to disclose this information. But Joanna later told a reporter that she did in fact give the police his name. Either way, police ended up identifying him after testing DNA retrieved from the deployed airbag. 4 months go by and charges are finally brought forward. But who police arrest literally shocks the nation. As expected, Thomas Petry, the driver of the Tacoma, who was driving westbound in the eastbound lane at 2 in the morning with no headlights on after drinking for the last 6 hours, is charged with 3 counts of vehicular homicide, 3 counts of leaving the scene of a crash with death, 1 count of reckless driving, and 1 count of leaving the scene with serious bodily injury. But then police arrest Devin Perkins, the driver of the Infiniti. He is charged with speeding and 3 counts of homicide and 1 count of reckless driving. How can that be? Devin's toxicology report came back with his blood alcohol level at 0.028, which is well under Florida's legal limit of 0.08, so we know he wasn't drunk. The toxicology report also shows that he tested positive for very low levels of marijuana. So why is Devin getting charged with the same charges as Thomas Petry? Because police say he was speeding. It has been determined that 5 seconds prior to the accident happening, Devin was traveling 100 miles an hour in a 65-mile-an-hour zone. At the time of impact, it was reported he was traveling 84 miles an hour. Devin's defense team reminded everyone, though, that Devin was not impaired at the time of the accident, and in fact, it was determined that Devin's reaction time was, quote, at or faster than the average person driving at night. Brian Gensler, the traffic homicide investigator, stated during the trial that speed was not the reason these kids died. It was the actions of Thomas Petry. So Thomas Petry accepts a plea and pleaded guilty to all charges. He is looking at a minimum of 36 years in prison and will be sentenced on November 6, 2024. Devin Perkins was also offered a plea which would have given him a 10 to 20-year sentence in prison. However, Devin refused the plea because he feels very strongly that he is not responsible for the death of his passengers. So Devin goes to trial in September of 2024, and shockingly, after just 20 minutes of deliberation, the jury comes back with a guilty verdict for 3 counts of vehicular homicide and 1 count of reckless driving with serious bodily injury. The most shocking part of this is that the minimum sentence in the state of Florida for what he's been convicted of is 30 years in prison. Devin was remanded into custody after the verdict and is currently in jail waiting for his sentencing date, which has not yet been set. So what do you think? Do you think this is a fair sentence? Even the parents of the victims have stated they do not support this case against Devin. And in fact, they believe he has suffered enough. If you're interested in supporting Devin, check out SaveDevin.com. His mom put together a fantastic website which has a ton of information about the case. So how can you help support Devin? Getting the story out is the easiest way. Please like, share, repost this video. Also on the website, it lists how you can reach out to the judge or contribute financially for Devin's defense. Thank you for watching.